Okay, today we are going to learn how to draw a nice grid for the next part of the assignment that we are doing. For this drawing, you are going to need a plain piece of 8.5 by 11 inch copy paper. This is not fancy art paper, it is just regular white paper as you would put into a computer printer or any other kind of copy machine in the standard size. So again, it is 11 inches wide, as you can see, and it is 8.5 inches tall, as you can see this way. What I want to do is I want to start off by measuring all the sides and making little marks on them so that I can create a grid. You're also going to need a ruler. If you do not have a ruler, I have made a video showing you how to actually make a ruler from scratch, and you should check that out. I will have it linked in this assignment. First thing you need to do is to put your ruler along the top edge like this, and you're going to mark a 1/2 inch from the left. Just a tiny little mark like that. I'm using a very hard pencil. You're going to make light lines for this entire thing because you don't want your grid to have dark lines on it. So either find a light pencil, like with an H in it, like that. This is a 4H, so it's a very hard lead. It's not going to show up. Or don't press very hard with your pencil. Next thing I'm going to do after I've made that 1/2 inch, I'm going to scoot my ruler over so that the 1/2 inch is at the 0 mark, and I'm going to start marking inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inches. Next thing I want to do, without rotating my paper at all, I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to line my ruler up with the bottom of the paper, same edge. I'm going to start from the left since I started with the left on the top. I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch. I'm going to slide my ruler over so that the 0 is now at that 1/2 inch mark. And I'm going to start marking inches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As I do this, I'm being very careful that the marks that I put down correspond exactly to where those inch marks are on my ruler. If you're not sure on your ruler which points are inches and which ones are smaller fractions of inches, take some time to examine your ruler first. Usually the inch marks will be the longest ones coming up from the edge. If you've made your own ruler from the demo video that I posted, make sure that you do this too so that it's really easy to read your ruler. Again, the inch marks are the long ones, and as they get shorter, they represent smaller and smaller fractions of an inch. So for example, the 1/2 inch mark is not as long as the 1 and 2, but it's longer than all the other ones. Okay, so now that I've made those marks on the opposite side of the paper, I'm going to rotate my paper 90 degrees. And from the top, this part is a little bit trickier. You're going to need to measure 3/4 of an inch. And in the demo that I posted, I only showed you how to make rulers that have whole and 1/2 inches. So in order to get a 1/4 inch, you would simply have to fold that part of the ruler in half from the 0 to the 1/2, and half of that is a 1/4. So once you have a 1/4, you can measure 3 of them and start at 3/4. Okay, so I'm going from 0 to 3/4 from this upper left-hand corner. Okay, then I'm going to slide my ruler over, and I'm going to do inches again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to slide my ruler down to the bottom of the paper, starting from that same left edge. It's really important that you don't rotate your paper because you want everything to be super consistent. And there could be tiny differences that if you start from the other side, you're going to get crooked lines when you make the grid. And you can see that if I line my ruler up with my paper, there is about almost a 1/16 of an inch difference between where it says 8.5 and where my paper ends. So that's why I want to be really consistent about where I'm measuring from. So again, I'm going to the left. I'm starting at 3/4 of an inch. I'm moving my ruler over, and I'm measuring inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's take a look at those marks that I just made. I'm going to hold them up really close. You can see that they are tiny. They are not going to be very dark. They're not going to show up very much. That's because we are now going to inscribe a grid on our paper. The grid is going to be exactly ½ an inch from either top or bottom and 3/4 of an inch from either side. And it's going to be 1-inch units. So now that we've measured that, all we have to do is connect the lines. So you want to find one line on one side and one line on the other. You want to line your ruler up so that if your pencil is sitting on that mark, your ruler touches your pencil. Take a second and move your pencil away and see how far from the point does the edge of your ruler have to be for your pencil to sit on the point. You want to make sure that you are doing this because let's say you're using a thick pencil that has a thicker base around it. In order for that pencil to touch the ruler, it might need to be farther away from it. So you want to get a sense of how far your ruler has to be from the mark so that you can predict where the line's going to go, okay? So if this is how far I have to be from this mark, when I'm lining it up with the other mark, I want to make sure that my ruler is a consistent distance from that mark. That way it's not going crooked between the two marks. I'm going to switch back to the pencil I was using, and I'm going to draw a line from mark to mark, corresponding right across the page. Nice light line. I'm not pushing very heavily. You can barely see that, but I can see it quite well. Take a look. You see the line? It's a nice light line. Those are the kind of lines I want. I'm going to continue and do this for the entire rest of the grid. At this point, I want to rotate my paper and I'm going to make the lines going between the other set of points. There we go. I now have a nice, neat gridded drawing. If you want to, for clarity, you can erase the lines that are in the gutters, because you don't need the ones that go all the way to the end of the page. We just need the ones that form closed 1-inch squares. And you should end up with a nice 10 by 7 grid. So again, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is a 10 by 7 grid on an 8.5 inch by 11 inch piece of paper. It is perfectly centered on the paper so that the next part of the step, after we finish this project, it's going to look nice and neat and in the middle of the paper because you're going to end up with a piece of artwork that I hope you're going to be very proud of.